I'm happy to do that. Yeah, now, as I say, thanks for inviting me. It's branded a Cuppa and Cake Meeting. Well, I've just finished a cup of coffee, but I haven't got any cake. So I hope you're not all eating cake in front of me and making me feel hungry.
I'm going to delete you from the meeting.
Pardon?
I'm going to delete you from the meeting if you bought no cake.
I'll try and get you. Okay.
Yeah, just to introduce myself. So I'm Steve. I'm the chief executive of the charity, and I've been in post for 15 years now. So a long time, and a real kind of privilege to be doing this role. I think one of the things that I've always really tried hard to do is to get out and about and to talk to people and to engage with people affected by Parkinson's and with health professionals and try and understand what's going on, what the issues and challenges, priorities are for people. And that's been really hard to do over the last 6 months because I've been working in my spare bedroom, our office is closed. Clearly we're not having meetings in the same way. I'm not getting out and about. So I kind of thought, how can I do something about that? And so I came up with this kind of idea of what I've grandly called my virtual tour. So throughout September, I'm meeting as many groups and people as I can. So I mean, yesterday I was in Stafford, I think, and I was in Devon, and today I'm in Cambridge, which is fantastic. And and I recognise a number of you. I've been to your groups a few times, I think, haven't I? In the garden centre outside Cambridge. I think you do meet on Friday mornings, don't you?
We do this time.
So I
normal weekly meeting.
Right. So really what I've been wanting to do in these discussions is just have a conversation really with people and just say, how has it been over the past 6 months? What have been the big challenges that you've been facing? How has lockdown, how has COVID kind of impacted on Parkinson's, on your networks? How has it been trying to access health services? What have been the challenges? Have there been any benefits? I mean, that somehow that have come out of this? What might the priorities for the charity be moving forward in the light of our kind of experience? So, I mean, quite open-ended conversations. I mean, I've had lots of these conversations now. I'm quite happy to play back some of the things that I've been picking up. But it'd be really interesting to hear from as many of you as possible. Really, what have been your kind of reflections of the past 6 months and the challenges that you've been experiencing?
So guys, any questions you'd like to pose? Any views?
Yeah, or just your experience.
Yeah. What have your experiences been like gone through this?
Some things, because I'm without Parkinson's, Steve, we've met before, and I'm terribly inclined to speak when I shouldn't, but I'm going to get it out of the way. One of my main roles in the branch in the past has been fundraising, in that I've organised the collections, and this year I was supposed to organise the Tulip Fun Run, and I imagine that fundraising is a major issue all round. I wonder whether there is any indication, for example, from Tesco, whether they're going to keep up their Tesco collections. In fact, whether they're going to be worth collecting in the future, since everybody has cards, not cash these days. So although I know that's a peripheral issue for people who are actually living with Parkinson's, that's my question.
Yeah, no, am I on mute? Yes, I am. No, that's a really good question, Caroline, and clearly it's been a big challenge for us as a charity, because at one level we've had an unprecedented and increased level of demand as people have been wanting to use all of our services, but facing a potential significant drop in income. We kind of predicted at the start of this that our income would go down by around 25% this year because of events not happening, just, you know, so much fundraising not being possible. I mean, actually, you know, people have been very supportive and very generous, and we're predicting now that it's more likely to be a 13% drop in income, but that's still, you know, that's still over £3 million across the charity, so that's significant. We've worked hard to prioritise our research, so that we haven't cut back on any of our research expenditure, which is great. I think the challenge, though, and you know, I mean, today, you know, watching the news last night, you know, it's clearly, you know, more doom and gloom, isn't there, as people understand the impact of this over the next 6 months, and people losing their jobs, and you know, so I think it's going to be a real struggle. You know, this year I think we'll be kind of okay, but next year I think is, you know, who knows. So I think just some messages that we've all got to really stick together as a charity and make sure we use our resources effectively. I know that you know, our local groups have been very supportive of kind of transferring any spare money, and you know, moving towards just what we're calling cash pooling, starting to at least put all our money into one bank account. But you know, we'll see where this plays out. But yeah, no, I'm sure it's, I mean, I guess for you as a local group, I guess that on one level your income probably is down quite significantly, but probably your expenditure is down as well, isn't it? So
expenditure is minimal at the moment.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how this sort of pans out over time. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, just talking. I mean, obviously, people, you know, that sense of people not being able to get out and do fundraising and things, but just, you know, people saying, some of the conversations I've been having, you know, it's still lockdown for people with Parkinson's, I think, has been the conclusion. Is that the kind of reality for you all? Are you still very nervous about going out? Are you kind of minimizing social contacts, or are you feeling a bit more you know, free now to be interacting a bit more with friends and family and going out to pubs and restaurants and things? You know, what is your own kind of personal take on this at the moment? I don't know if anybody wants to answer that.
Yeah, I could answer. We have a pretty reclusive life anyway, but it's very difficult to juggle getting exercise for someone with Parkinson's and going out for walks and things like that with the constraints of COVID. So I think that's a tricky balance, really. Yeah.
No, that's really interesting, Beverly. And I have heard people say that symptoms have got worse because of that, because of the difficulties in exercising and yeah, kind of daily routine, as well as actual kind of exercise programs. So I don't know whether people have kind of experienced that, but that's certainly been a strong theme that I've heard. A kind of a worsening of symptoms, I suppose. And that sounds a bit depressing to say that, but you know, and doctors and nurses have been saying that they've noticed people wanting their medication to be increased over, you know, needing their medication to be increased over this time.
I would like to say something. I think there's a concern about the availability of your medicines, in the sense that basically you want to venture out as minimum as possible because of contact. We're all in an age group where we're in the vulnerable group, and with some of us additional health problems as well, add additional risks, and therefore keeping visits outside to a minimum is one of the essentials in life at the moment, I think.
Yeah, so are you saying that in terms of medication, are you saying that's what's the point there, that it can be quite hard to access that, or getting to pharmacies?
At my pharmacy, it takes a week to get your medicine from the point of from the day in which you ask for it. The other thing is, you often go to the pharmacy and find that all your medicine's not there in one go. So you have to call back because there are shortages in something, in one of the items, or you have to alternatively go to another pharmacy in another location, which means travel. And if it means travel, then that means traveling into the city in Norwich, and that's not advisable, really.
Right, and that's kind of worse now than it has been before, is it? That feels like a...
Well, it's an added burden. I don't say it's unique to just since COVID, but basically it's another consideration.
Barry, do you have things like Pills Sorted? Because we have an excellent service in Cambridge called Pills Sorted, who actually they liaise with the doctor's practice and they organise my husband's tablets, which are many, and they deliver it probably once a month, and they coordinate all of it and do it in one go, and they deliver it to your home.
That's fine if you live a life whereby you're limited to one location and you're limited to being around every month to be able to take delivery. Our lifestyle is more free than that, I'm afraid.
Oh, right.
Sounds exciting.
One of our consequences of COVID was we were locked out of the UK for 2.5 months.
Right. Okay.
But the other side to that was that basically when I explained to the local town hall my issues of needing medicine for Parkinson's and other things, within 6 hours they'd organised my medicines to be picked up from the pharmacy, although I hadn't actually asked for them to arrange it immediately. And I ended up with a prescription. It took me through until the 1st of December this year if I needed anything.
Right.
So, you know, the health service has some catching up to do in some respects.
Yeah, yeah.
How are people around the screen actually coping with exercise in the current environment? Is it a challenge? Is it something that we as a branch should be trying to organise a Zoom exercise group?
That would be very difficult because people have different capacities, and one particular exercise or a series of exercise doesn't necessarily fit everyone.
No.
So it's got to be tailor-made in reality.
That's true, Jackie, but there are groups that are doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, quite a lot of groups are doing online exercise groups, and the charity through a whole range of physiotherapists have put together a lot of online videos as well for a whole range of different programs for people with different symptoms at different stages of the condition. But I think what I also equally hear is exercise is a social activity, and it's much easier to do it when there's someone sitting next to you or standing next to you sort of encouraging you. So it is a challenge, but there are some online resources available. I mean, it might be. I mean, I think the one thing about online actually is it doesn't have to be local, does it? So it may be there are other groups who are running some online exercise programs who might be able to make them available to your members as well, potentially.
I think that's a point well made, and in fact, Ruth Brinkler-Long at Peterborough has suggested that we do just that we piggyback on her exercise groups, and that's one of the things that I'm pursuing at the moment.
Yeah, brilliant.
That would be useful.
Yeah.
And how are you coping, Martin?
I'm not doing as much exercise as I used to, and that wasn't a great deal. And, I've got a gentle movements group that I go to, but I'm now finding it difficult to move around on the bed to do the exercises. So I've given up over the last couple of weeks, which is silly of me. I also begin to stagger when I walk, so I don't do as much walking as I was. So, but I think that's me not being determined enough. Elizabeth's growing.
Yeah, and you used to get involved you used to go to the group's exercise program, did you? So
I used to do, yeah, with a group of other people.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No,
it's nice to know we do it. She does it Zoom still, but
right.
It strikes me that one of the issues here is that it is the motivation to do stuff when you're not meeting up with people or meeting up with family as we used to. Keeping that motivation is very difficult.
And I guess that leads into another theme of people talking to me about, this might be a harder thing to talk about, but some of the sort of mental health challenges of this, the kind of isolation and this sort of anxiety. People talk about a lack of confidence as well because of being, not being out and about and doing things in quite the same way. That's certainly been a theme that I've picked up, and that's for people with Parkinson's, but family members as well. carers, partners. Sorry, someone was trying to say something.
No, I think you're right. I think there is a confidence issue, and it isn't helped by the constant mixed messages from government as to whether it's okay to go out or not okay to go out. And I think those people with underlying health issues, in addition to their Parkinson's, are rightly concerned, and that concern just builds up anxiety. And I think, you know, the mental health issues are going to be next year before they really begin to come home to roost. And I think that's a very worrying aspect.
Yeah.
And I think the doctor wants to talk to you on the phone rather than actually seeing you. And some of the things are difficult to describe. I wish they'd done that with the flu jab, mind you. We could have had a virtual flu jab.
Yeah, one of those. So has that, what have been people's experience of healthcare then? Has it been a move to telephone clinics? Have anyone had video clinics? Because I think, you know, that is happening in some places, or even face-to-face appointments, I guess. You know, what have been people's experiences of that?
Telephone.
Yeah, and you said it wasn't really you didn't feel it was very satisfactory. You couldn't kind of explain.
I begin to stagger a lot, so it's difficult to explain that and illustrate the severity of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had on our meeting 2 weeks ago, Steve, we had the clinical lead from the Parkinson team.
The important thing about
Sorry, Barry. We had the Parkinson's lead from the nursing team talking to us and how they're getting themselves back together. But the team was pretty well decimated as they were redeployed. But they don't expect to get back to meeting people face to face, certainly this side of Christmas, and sort of with the latest government instructions, probably not to the middle of next year.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I was talking to a consultant yesterday. He was talking to a group. And he was just talking about the importance of really kind of preparing for those telephone conversations. You know, a list of what you want to talk about, having a list of your kind of medication. There is some resources on the Parkinson's UK website about how to prepare for telephone and video consultations that people might find helpful. Because I think what some of the feedback I've heard is that, you know, a bit like Martin was saying, you can't explain everything, but also the conversations, you know, you almost talk about one problem and one issue, and then, you know, there's a silence and the conversation ends. Whereas in a consultation, it might be a little bit more free-ranging, an opportunity to bring up more issues and more challenges. But, you know, I think his advice was, you know, prepare for the conversation, be really clear what it is that you want to talk about, and make sure that's very kind of firmly on the agenda.
I've been quite intrigued. I've not had any consultation except by phone. But the research group at the Brain Repair Center wants me to come in next week for 90 minutes in the MRI scanner wearing a mask.
Well, how do you feel about that?
Not very happy about the mask in the MRI, but I will manage it. You
would think there's quite a significant amount of social distancing in an MRI scanner.
I would have thought so.
Yeah, people are more worried about the radiation, I think, than the COVID. So, but yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So, yeah, any other kind of reflections? I mean, I suppose it's all been a bit depressing the last few days, hasn't it? In terms of, you know, another 6 months and yeah, just I guess groups like this. I mean, I don't know how many of your group are able to kind of link up via Zoom, but it just seems to me that that's really important, and it's almost a new skill that local groups have developed. I don't know how many of you, you know, a year ago would have been confident having video meetings and things, but it seems like it's really important for people now to be able to meet in this way. But, you know, there is a bit of a digital divide, I'm picking up. I don't know what your numbers are, but I think I would estimate that probably, you know, more than half of some groups are not kind of engaging, you know, online, and so you're sort of losing contact with a range of people.
I think that's a really interesting point, Steve. We've got 252 people at this moment on our email database, and I emailed, and probably Lisa forwarded the email that I sent regarding this meeting. Today, only 41% of those 252 people have actually opened the email.
Right.
On average, about 60% open emails. When we send out a newsletter, of that 60%, only half of them actually click on the link to get our newsletter. So even those that are connected, there is a divide, and I worry and concern myself with what is it that we're not doing that's triggering those people to want to join in. And the group that we've got here today, 20 odd people, is pretty much the same group of people that we see every other Friday, which is great. And I think there's a nice rapport between the group. But I worry about the 200 and others that have not joined in, and even more so, those 40 people that have not got an email connection.
Mm.
And they're the ones that I feel, you know, they're the ones that are lonely, and they're probably the ones that need support and encouragement more than the group around this screen.
Mm. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And have you been able to identify any approaches, strategies of engaging those people, supporting, encouraging that group?
Well, when we spoke at the volunteer meeting, I noted for our next committee meeting, which is next week, to raise that issue and actually divide up those 40 people between the 10 of us on the committee, and just make a commitment to give them a call just to make sure that they're okay.
Yeah.
Because we made a decision, whether rightly or wrongly, that our newsletter we would only publish electronically and not post, because to post the newsletter, you know, 40-50 copies is best part of £100, and you yeah, whether it's worth doing that as a one-off just now, because just to remind people that we're here. I don't know. You know, the charity did. I mean, we've put a lot of stuff online around exercise, around mental health, around you know, a whole number of things, and we did produce a paper version of that document. And we've tried to get it out as much as possible. People who aren't kind of online, but you know, if you were going to communicate to them, do signpost people to that document that you'll see on our website, or I can show you where it is after this. Yeah. No, I know where it is. I know the document you're talking about. Yeah.
Can I just ask a question? Are other people finding that the line is breaking up on them at times?
What, on this call? No.
Oh, dreadfully.
It must be your local internet connection.
I don't doubt that. It's Norfolk, isn't it?
Normal for Norfolk.
I've just gone down thing, but one of the things I would like to raise is that I feel that, in fact, two things. I've not been able to find a list on Parkinson's UK site of the research projects that you are involved in. I'd like to know what Parkinson's is funding.
Okay, well,
a simple list on the website would be useful. It's sort of regularly updated.
Yeah, I'll have another look in a minute, actually, because I thought that was there. We do try and make sure we keep up to date on that. And there is also a part of our website called the Take Part Hub, where we highlight all of the studies in the UK that are recruiting to different research studies and clinical trials. You put your postcode in, and you use that to find things that you might be interested in. A number of those are what you can do at home. Yeah. So the list has just gone up, actually, in the chat. You'll see there. Our research project is the link there to all of the projects that we're funding.
I'm a retired research scientist myself, and basically one of the things that interests me is during the COVID pandemic is trying to sit down and think outside the box about funding. And there's funding at local level, there's a funding at national level, there's funding at international level. One of the things that surprises me is that there's been no attempt to basically involve not only people with Parkinson's that can make some contribution to their own salvation, but also the public in general, as to whether there's not a case for something like an international based unit trust that one could invest in, so that basically there are people that don't have money to be able to donate as a large charitable gift. There are people that are super wealthy and can do that, but the general run of the mill is that that's possible. But to sort of try and seek my own salvation, I suppose, in a way, I'd be interested in putting some of my pension fund into a unit trust that was directed specifically at trying to provide results for neurodegenerative diseases, not necessarily just Parkinson's, but Parkinson's, Alzheimer's. Cancer seems to get well funded, but there are other aspects which don't, and I think Parkinson's doesn't come in the same league as cancer research in that sense, and I think that's a problem. One of the issues that I'm interested in from a scientific point of view is that one of the real molecules that really, to me, is the only molecule that shows any real chance of having something fundamental to do with Parkinson's is trodoscamine. This squalene derivative that's shown to carry out or have the ability to disaggregate Lewy bodies or alpha-synucleins. And it seems that that work, as far as I can gather from what I've been able to find on the web, that work was carried out at Cambridge, and it seems to me that now the fundamental discovery of trodoscamine was carried out in Cambridge, at least by the first author of the paper, and yet the patent rights for that molecule now seems to rest with a company called Enterin in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you're talking about something I'm not familiar with, and I'm not a researcher and I'm not a scientist, so I can't comment on the detail of that. But you know, do talk to our research team about it. They would be really interested in that. I think the first point you make is how do we encourage kind of investment in Parkinson's research? You know, I think a unit trust kind of idea could be quite complicated, but we are looking at ways of encouraging people to make investments in Parkinson's projects, because that's what's needed. We need not just charitable money or government money, we need industry money, and that's partly what's behind our virtual biotech project, trying to make these projects more investable and give them chance of success in that way.
Barry, I'll find a contact for you in the research team that you can discuss that particular issue with. I'll come back to you.
Or Becky.
I'd like to, yeah, fine.
Okay. Steve, I realise that you've spent your 30 minutes with us, and I guess you probably have got another one of these to do very shortly.
I haven't today, but I have got other things that are in my diary for the rest of the day. So yeah, no, I need to get on and let you get on with what you normally wanted to talk about. But it's been really good getting that feedback from you, and it's great to meet you and see that the Cambridge branch is still. I say thriving. I mean, I recognise, you know, what you were saying, Keith, in terms of all the challenges, but, you know, has got a really great nucleus who are looking.
Alive and kicking.
Yeah, alive and kicking. You helped me out there. Yeah. So, yeah, alive and kicking, albeit online. Yeah.
Online.
You have time for one more question, Steve?
Go on.
Having one more question, yeah.
One more question. In your time out and about, are you seeing any common trends, any common patterns? Is what you're hearing from us symptomatic of what you're hearing more nationally? I
think, I mean, just a really quick summary. I think, you know, clearly lockdown is impacting on people in a number of different ways. You know, mental health type issues, the issues around keeping active, exercise, daily routines and things is really important. And I think people are suffering because of those issues. I think I'm picking up particular kind of pressures on carers, people who perhaps not able to access sort of social care services, or actually probably just as likely are not wanting to access social care services because they're nervous about having people in their house, or so, you know, people taking on an increased burden themselves, and I think some kind of consequences of that. I think, you know, they're, like you've been saying, sort of challenges engaging with the health service, and which seems, I think, to be getting back to normal, albeit on telephone and kind of online with just a small level of face-to-face contacts, and all the other kind of services that go with that starting to get back to normal. I think the kind of digital divide that we've talked about is a big theme, but at the same time, I think, you know, I've picked up lots of innovation, you know, innovation in local groups, innovation in the health service, where people are doing working differently and connecting in different ways. And, you know, I think what I would say is a greater sense of unity across the charity. You know, we're in this together. You know, we've got to stick together, work closely together, share what we're doing, and get through this together. So that's a very quick summary of you know, some of the kind of conversations I've been having. It's been, yeah, lots of stories around all of those points, but those are probably the standout points for me. I hope that's kind of helpful.
Steve, can I, on just behalf of the group, say thank you very much for spending sort of your valuable time with us. It's been a joy to see you, and we hope to catch up with you soon. Keep the charity on the straight and narrow. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, no, thank you. And thanks for what you're doing. And yeah, I look forward to a Friday morning, a real piece of cake in that garden centre outside Cambridge, and to see people in 3D. That would be Perfect. Great. Thanks very much.
All the best. Bye-bye. Thanks a lot. Thanks now. Bye.